You felt it before. That magnetic pull toward the one who doesn't want you. The one who looks past you, ignores you, leaves you waiting. And yet, you can't look away. Their absence becomes heavier than anyone else's presence. Their rejection feels more intimate than acceptance ever could. We call it love, we call it desire, but Jung would call it something else. An unconscious pattern, a complex repeating itself, a wound disguised as attraction. Because the moment you crave the unavailable, you are no longer choosing. You are being chosen, not by them, but by the shadow you carry within. This is Jung's dark truth. We do not fall in love with people. We fall in love with our wounds, reflected back at us. We think desire is a choice, that attraction is about chemistry or preference or compatibility. But if you've ever been pulled towards someone who doesn't want you, you already know this is not about choice. It feels like gravity, an invisible force pulling you closer even as they pull away. And the harder you try to resist, the stronger it becomes. Why? Jung's answer was simple but merciless, because what we call love is often a complex, a knot of unresolved experiences, emotions, and wounds that the psyche keeps repeating. When you find yourself obsessed with the unavailable, it is not the person you're chasing. It is the echo of something much older. Think back, the first time you ever felt the sting of rejection. The first moment you realized that what you needed most would not be given to you. For some, it was a distant father. For others, a mother whose love felt conditional. For many, it was simply the quiet wound of being unseen, unheard, unmet. That absence didn't disappear. It buried itself deep in your unconscious. And now, years later, when you meet someone who withholds, that old wound flares awake. Suddenly, you are not an adult in the present. You are a child again, desperate for the love that never came. This is the secret engine of obsession. We are not drawn to the person in front of us. We are drawn to the unfinished story behind us. Jung called this possession by the complex. The unavailable person becomes a screen onto which we project the drama of our earliest needs. We chase them not because of who they are, but because of who they remind us of, the first ones who could not give us what we craved. And here's the cruel trick. The mind confuses intensity for meaning. The harder it feels, the more important we think it is. The more they reject us, the more convinced we become that they must hold the key to our worth. But this is not love. This is repetition, a cycle disguised as destiny. And yet, the cycle seduces us precisely because it feels familiar. We mistake repetition for recognition. The unavailable feels magnetic because they awaken the same ache we've carried for years. It feels personal, but it isn't. It feels unique, but it's not. This is why Jung warned, what you don't make conscious, you are condemned to live as fate. The unavailable is not your soulmate. They are your mirror, a mirror that doesn't give you what you want, but reflects exactly what you've been running from. Look closely at your own story. How many times has this pattern repeated? Different names, different faces, but the same distance, the same longing, the same desperate hunger for the one who doesn't choose you. This is what Jung meant by fate, not some cosmic plan, but the unconscious leading you back, again and again, to the same wound.
You don't chase them because they are special. You chase them because your unconscious believes that if this time the unavailable says yes, the wound will finally close. It never does. It only deepens. Because the truth is, what you are chasing isn't them. It is the missing piece of yourself. And until you face that, the unavailable will always look like home.
Desire has always been more than biology. It is myth. It is story. It is the psyche replaying itself through symbols we don't fully understand. When Jung studied the patterns of attraction, he saw more than personal taste or random chemistry. He saw archetypes, primordial images that live in all of us, waiting to be projected onto the people we meet. The unavailable person is never just themselves. They become an archetype. They become the unreachable anima, or the distant animus, or the eternal lover who never fully arrives. And once this archetype is awakened in us, the pull feels absolute. We are no longer chasing a human being. We are chasing a figure that belongs to the collective unconscious, a symbol of desire itself. Think of the stories we tell. Romeo and Juliet, lovers doomed to be separated. Tristan and Isolde, bound by love, torn by fate. Orpheus, reaching for Eurydice, only to lose her in the last instant. Across centuries, across cultures, we repeat the same script, not because we lack imagination, but because the wound is universal. We are haunted by the archetype of the unreachable. And in every story, desire burns brighter the more impossible it becomes. It is not the kiss we remember. It is the almost. The hand almost touched. The love almost fulfilled. The promise just out of reach. This is the essence of obsession. Desire sustained by absence. Jung saw how the anima and animus, our inner images of the opposite, rarely appear in forms that nourish us. More often, they appear distorted. A lover we can't quite have. A figure who awakens longing but never stays. This distorted archetype seduces us because it mirrors the part of ourselves we haven't integrated. The unavailable lover is the shadowed reflection of our own unlived life, our own unclaimed self. And so, when we fall for them, we are not falling for the person. We are falling for the shadow within us, projected outward. This is why the unavailable feels magnetic. They are carrying our projection. We load them with the weight of our anima, our animus, our lost inner image. And when they pull away, it feels like a part of our soul is leaving. But the truth is, they never had it. We gave it to them. We surrendered the symbol of our own wholeness, placing it in their hands. That is why rejection cuts so deep. Because when they say no, it feels as if life itself has denied us. But what is actually denied is our own projection, the illusion we built. The obsession becomes unbearable because it is not simply about losing a person. It is about losing the reflection of our inner world. The unavailable carries our unclaimed parts, and so when they turn away, it feels as if the universe itself is turning away. But Jung warned us, every projection is also an opportunity. What we project onto the unavailable is a map of what we have yet to meet within ourselves. Pause for a moment. Think of the last time you longed for someone who could not be yours. Look carefully at what they embodied for you. Was it freedom? Was it approval? Was it intensity? Was it the thrill of being chosen at last? Whatever it was never really them. It was a missing piece of you.
We chase rejection because it promises revelation. We believe that if the unavailable finally turns toward us, we will become whole. But the paradox is cruel. Wholeness cannot be borrowed. It cannot be handed to us by someone who refuses to stay. And yet we keep chasing. Because deep down, the psyche does not crave comfort. It craves completion. And sometimes it mistakes suffering as the path to it. This is not fate. This is projection. And until we see it, we will keep confusing absence for intimacy and obsession for love.
Desire thrives on absence. If it were simple, if it were given freely, it would not feel the same. It is the gap that makes longing burn. It is the delay that makes us crave. It is the no that makes us desperate for yes. Jung understood this. The psyche confuses absence with depth. The unavailable becomes alluring not because of who they are, but because of the space they refuse to fill. Their silence becomes a canvas. Their distance becomes an abyss. And in that abyss, we project all our hunger, all our fantasies, all our unresolved stories. This is why availability rarely seduces us. When someone says yes too quickly, when they offer their presence without resistance, our unconscious dismisses it, not because love is boring, but because it does not activate the old drama. The old wound needs struggle to feel alive. It is not passion we seek, it is repetition. The unavailable provides the conditions for the wound to replay itself. The struggle feels meaningful precisely because it is hard. We mistake difficulty for depth and rejection for significance. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself drawn to someone who made you wait, while ignoring those who stood willing, open, present? Why does indifference feel magnetic, while affection often feels light, even empty? Because deep down, what we long for is not the person, it is the drama of becoming worthy. It is the hope that if this unavailable one finally chooses us, we will no longer feel rejected, we will no longer feel small, we will no longer feel incomplete. It is not about love, it is about victory over the wound. Kierkegaard once wrote that despair is not the absence of possibility, but the endless confrontation with it. The unavailable person embodies this despair. They stand as the eternal maybe, dangling the possibility of fulfillment without ever granting it. And so we remain in suspense, caught between hope and loss, between hunger and denial. The unavailable feeds us just enough possibility to keep us alive, but never enough reality to set us free. Nietzsche saw another truth. He argued that the will does not only want what it has, it needs resistance to assert itself. A desire easily satisfied loses its intensity. The unavailable, by resisting, gives desire the friction it craves. The struggle itself becomes intoxicating. This is why so many of us abandon what we already have in pursuit of what we cannot reach, not because the unreachable is better, but because our will mistakes resistance for meaning. But there is a darker side to this pattern. Because obsession never ends in completion, it ends in collapse. When we finally get the unavailable, if by some chance they turn toward us, the fire quickly fades. The victory is hollow. Because what we wanted was not them, it was the struggle itself. Without the obstacle, the complex loses its fuel. And suddenly, the one who consumed our thoughts for months or years becomes ordinary, almost empty. This is the cruel paradox. We are addicted not to love, but to longing. We crave not presence, but absence.
Look closely and you'll see it everywhere. In the friend who only desires those who mistreat them. In the lover who runs from stability into chaos. In the endless cycle of almost relationships that collapse the moment they become real. We say we want closeness, but what we are addicted to is distance, because distance keeps the wound alive, and the wound is what makes us feel. Here lies the hardest truth. We don't actually want to heal, at least not at first, because the wound gives us identity. The wound gives us intensity. The wound convinces us we are alive. To let go of the unavailable would mean to face the emptiness inside us. It would mean to sit with the silence that no lover can fill. And that is far more terrifying than chasing someone who rejects us. So we run, we chase, we obsess. Not because they are the answer, but because obsession keeps us from facing the void. The unavailable is not our salvation. They are our distraction, a beautiful, torturous distraction from the truth that the emptiness was always ours.
The chase always ends the same, not in fulfillment, not in love, but in exhaustion. The unavailable never saves us, even if they turn, even if they stay for a moment. The obsession dissolves into emptiness, because what we were longing for was never truly them. It was something buried inside of us, something we abandoned long ago. Jung wrote that the greatest act of courage is not facing the outer world, but facing the inner one. And nowhere is this more evident than in our obsession with rejection. Because if we dare to look closely, we see the truth. The unavailable is not the wound. They are only the messenger. What they awaken in us is older than romance, older than attraction. It is the child who felt unseen, the voice that was never answered, the presence that never came. We do not chase people, we chase echoes. We chase the unfinished story of our own abandonment. And here lies the confrontation. To continue the chase is to remain possessed by the complex. To break the cycle is to reclaim what was lost. This is why Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole. It does not happen when another finally says yes. It happens when we turn inward and face the parts of ourselves we left behind. But the ego resists this. It would rather keep running. It would rather call the obsession love than admit it is fear. It would rather chase the unavailable than sit with the unbearable silence of our own emptiness. And so many never stop. They build their lives on longing. They confuse intensity with intimacy. They turn pain into proof that they are alive. But what they do not see is that obsession is not aliveness. It is entrapment. It is the unconscious directing our fate. And the cost is greater than you think, because the energy we pour into the unavailable is energy we steal from the life waiting to be lived. How many years are lost in silent waiting? How many moments of real connection are ignored because we are consumed by the one who refuses us? Obsession does not just chain us to another. It chains us to a smaller version of ourselves. We shrink to fit the wound. We abandon our growth for the hope of being chosen. This is how the unconscious devours a life, not in one catastrophic moment, but in the slow erosion of every possibility we never allowed ourselves to touch. So, what would it mean to stop? To turn away from the one who ignores us, not in bitterness, not in resentment, but in recognition. It would mean this: I see what you mirror. I see the wound you awaken,
But it is not your burden to heal it. It is mine. That is the act of consciousness. That is the beginning of freedom. When you stop chasing the unavailable, you do not lose them. You lose the illusion. You lose the lie that your worth depends on their yes. And in its place, you begin to meet yourself. This is the paradox Jung uncovered. We think we are chasing love, but we are really running from ourselves. And the moment we stop running, the wound is no longer a curse. It becomes a doorway. Think of it this way. The unavailable is a mirror. They reflect the part of you that you abandoned. When you turn away from the mirror, you do not lose yourself, you reclaim yourself. Every rejection becomes an invitation. Every no becomes a map. Every obsession becomes a message. Go inward. The one you were looking for is already here. This is not just about love. This is about fate, about the life you live when the unconscious drives you, and the life you awaken when you take back the wheel. You will always feel the pull of the unavailable, but the question is not whether they want you. The question is whether you are willing to face what they awaken. Because in the end, it was never about them. It was about you. The wound you carry, the silence you avoided, the self you left behind. And once you see that, you no longer chase. You no longer beg. You no longer mistake rejection for love. You stand. You look inward. And you begin, finally, to return to yourself.
If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it. Someone out there still believes rejection is proof of unworthiness, still calls obsession love, still thinks absence means depth. This won't give them peace, but it might show why they never find it. Let this reach the ones still mistaking silence for intimacy. Let it remind them you were never chasing them, you were chasing yourself.